Hey all, here OS Reviews. You're watching our in-depth video review of the Xiaomi Amazfit Pace 2, also known as the Sports 2 smartwatch or Stratos. And it sells for about $190 online, sometimes goes on sale for a little bit less. And there's a deluxe version that comes with sapphire glass and a leather strap instead of rubber for $100 more. This makes the Stratos the most expensive smartwatch that Xiaomi has produced so far. It's also slightly larger in terms of size compared to the original Pace, as you can see. It has a slightly larger bezel size because it has the seconds and accents around the edges. It also has a curved glass panel as opposed to a flat one on the previous version, and it also has a carbon fiber build that makes it a bit more premium in terms of the look and design. In addition, it's slightly larger in terms of overall dimensions. The Pace 2 is by no means your slimmest smartwatch on the market. In fact, it's one of the bulkier versions that we've seen. Compared to Xiaomi's own BIP, you can tell that it's a lot chunkier and larger. Here is a similarly priced TicWatch 2, and you can tell how small the TicWatch 2 is next to the Xiaomi because of its smaller bezels. Overall, though, this definitely looks like a classy watch. It's very similar to an analog style watch because of these accents and the way they've crafted everything. It feels like a very premium timepiece. In terms of specifications, we still have a 1.34-inch TFT display. It's actually using e-paper technology. It's an always-on panel, which is one of the best attributes of Xiaomi's smartwatches. Compared to AMOLED on many other competitors, this one, again, conserves battery very well, and even when there's no, again, backlight on, you can still see it very easily. Underneath the hood, we still have a dual-core processor, and it's roughly clocked at 1.4 gigahertz. There is still 512 megabytes of RAM, complemented by 4 gigs of onboard storage, which you can use to store music locally and use this as an MP3 player. Otherwise, there have been a few updates to the proprietary operating system that Xiaomi has put on this watch. It's based on Android, but it's heavily customized. And otherwise, we also have access to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, because this is a sports watch after all, so you can more easily track your runs and your traveling log once you sync it with the companion app. On the back, there's also an optical heart rate sensor, along with the contact pins for charging. You can charge this up in under 2 hours, and it gets you roughly a week of use before you need to recharge it again. If you turn off all the wireless options, you can get roughly up to 9 to 10 days of continuous use, making the battery life still as good as the original Pace. Now, one improvement that I really like compared to the original Pace is the larger keys. The crown key is significantly larger, and we also have additional keys for selecting left and right to go between pages. Because this is a sports watch, if you're wearing gloves or you're constantly outdoors, it makes the buttons really easy to press, and you don't have to worry quite as much about hitting something precisely or even interacting with the screen. You can simply go up and down through lists and menus just by tapping on these keys left and right. You may be wondering what updates the Pace 2 brings to the original, and there are quite a few. For one, it's more durable. It has a waterproof rating of 5 ATM, deeper than on the original Pace. That means if you go swimming for longer durations of time, it actually has a sensor that specifically knows when you're underwater and goes into the swimming mode. So if you are a swimmer, for diving, things like that, this is definitely one area where the Pace 2 is an improvement. Another area that it improves upon is having a Xiaomi Smart Home Command Center. So on the bottom, on the right here, we have access to a specific panel that we can use to control our Xiaomi smart home products. So if you are already invested in Xiaomi's ecosystem of smart lights, smart speakers, and smart TVs, you can now use your watch to simply control all of those appliances, turn it on, turn it off, things like that right from the watch, which is quite useful. It retains NFC and Alipay, so for wireless payment, you can use your watch. Furthermore, it also has a slightly better ambient light sensor and borrows the trick from the TicWatch 2 that I really liked, which is that whenever the watch is active, you can actually make the screen go back to sleep just by putting your entire hand over it, and it goes back into this analog mode. It works really well. The ambient light sensor is also more responsive on this than on the original Pace in my testing. So whenever you move from a bright environment into a darkened environment, it will automatically turn on the backlight, and also when you twist your wrist, it also turns on very quickly the backlight. The screen is not active, but it makes it much easier to see the display whenever you're trying to take a look at the time in the dark. So taking a closer look at the watch interface, it's still very similar to the original Pace, and that's a good thing. The interface as a whole is simple and easy to understand. It's very similar to something like Android Wear in terms of its overall gestures. I can drag down from the top here to have access to a pull-down shade for weather information. I can turn on airplane mode. I can adjust the brightness. I can go into settings, and I can also pull up to look at notifications. So right now it's telling me there is an update that I can install. And again, with these two extra crown keys that I have on the Pace 2, it's more easier to go up and down through lists and select things if you don't want to use the touchscreen or if you're wearing gloves. The curved display is actually very smooth and responsive, and it's easy to use, and it's coated by Corning's Gorilla Glass on the standard version. Over to the left, we also have access to our traditional kind of apps, and of course I can swipe over to the right as well, and most of these menus haven't really changed compared to the first Pace. We have access to a log of our steps and movements, daily goals that I can set. From here you can tell that many of these kind of titles are still in Chinese at the moment, and that's because, like most of Xiaomi's products, they're released in China first before they're released globally. But at the moment, all of these menus are in Chinese. So this is a log of how many steps we've walked, and of course it gives you much more advanced statistics to take a look at compared to the original Pace, in addition to the BIP, which is a simplified version of their more premium smartwatches. So from here, again, these keys allow me to go up and down through these lists very easily to take a look at very quickly how many hours I've slept, in addition to the date, how many calories I've burned, at what specific times. It's definitely pretty cool that you can see all of these advanced graphs directly on the watch without having to even bring up the app from the phone. So it gives you all these statistics to play around with, and again, you can swipe over from the edge to also go back onto the previous page. That's one of their gestures. So if we go over to the next page over, we have access to a log of the weather. It uses the GPS to know your location, and there's also a continuous heart rate tracker that tells you your heart rate per hour. There's the music player, which you can sideload music by connecting the watch to a computer and dragging files onto it directly. Here is the mobile payment. Here is the alarm, which I can use to set up very quickly. You can see the interface here is quite simple. Now, Xiaomi is using their proprietary processor that they designed specifically for this watch on the Pace 2, but the clock speed as well as the dual core nature are the exact same as on the original. So as a whole, the overall speed still feels the same. Next panel over gives us access to the compass, so you have to kind of rotate your wrist in a motion before it pops up, but it's pretty accurate and also pretty easy to use. And next we also have a stopwatch that I can tap on to begin. This is the sleep tracking, and over here I can also add my appointments and calendar notifications, so I can do a checklist of things that I want to buy in a store, and it will push it over. And again, this is the Xiaomi Smart Home Command Center. So all in all, it's a pretty simple interface, and you can also use the app to hide some of these pages if it's a little too confusing or if there's too many pages on this screen right now. So I can only limit, let's say I don't want to see the weather, I don't want to see the Smart Home Command Center. I can hide those pages from view so I don't have to cycle between quite as few pages when I'm navigating in between, depending on my uses. Going to settings here, if I tap on the settings bar, I can actually turn on and off Wi-Fi from the watch directly, which is a pretty neat feature. Connecting to Wi-Fi enables you to create updates and software patches from the watch directly, so you don't even need to use your phone, which is quite useful, although the keyboard is a little bit small for hunting and pecking information. And there's also Bluetooth for connecting to a Bluetooth headset if you're using this as an MP3 player when exercising and moving out. Alright, so let's try one of these other sports modes just to take a quick look at that. It's very similar to what we saw on the first generation Pace. You have access to 11 types of sports, from running, jogging, swimming, to kind of more cardio activities, and it first needs to fix a GPS signal, but when it's ready you can tap on go, and it's going to vibrate ever so slightly, and it changes into this format where it tells you the seconds and also laps, as well as the cadence and number of steps that you've taken. So it's a very neat interface, and it's also getting your heart rate continuously read during this entire period, and also your GPS location as well. In terms of special commands, I can long hold on the main screen here to change the watch face. There are a few preloaded ones, and of course you can download more from Xiaomi and kind of change the look of the watch to your desire. There's some more simple ones. There's also, of course, ones that gives you more sports activities, but they all look pretty neat, especially on this round display. I like the fact that we have these second accents on the edges of the screen. It makes it look closer closer to a Casio or another sports type watch. So again, you have quite a few options here. Some other special commands that you may have noticed, whenever the watch is inactive, you can tap on any of the keys to bring it to wake. From there, you can interact with the touchscreen, and whenever you're in a specific panel or in an app, I can long hold on the center key here to go back into this main page. Long holding on the top key here brings down the settings, and long holding on the bottom here brings up the notification shade. Taking a look at the app, it's called Amazfit Watch. It's actually not the version that's found directly in the Play Store, but you have to scan the QR code from the user manual in the box to get the correct version. Binding and pairing is pretty simple, and whenever you have Bluetooth turned on, the watch will automatically pair and try to push updates over to the phone. So you can see how many steps we've taken out of our daily goal, and tapping on any of these icons will give us more visualization options as far as steps in particular points of time, as well as in particular days of the week. I can also take a look at number of floors I've climbed. So there is a barometer in addition to an accelerometer and a gyroscope built right on in, and calories that I've burned. Down below here, there's also the battery percentage remaining. Here I have the heart rate data that I can tap on to take a look at. And going back again, we also have the sleep tracking, and down below here, tapping on sports, I can sync specific sports sessions, such as the one that I demoed earlier. So if I was using the GPS and running outside, it would push that information over to sports, and I can tap on that to take a look at more detailed statistics, and in a map, take a look at the path that I've walked or run. Very similar to other Garmin smartwatches on the market. That's more or less it as far as the fitness portion of the watch is concerned. The sensors are pretty accurate. When I compared number of steps earlier with the original pace and the bip, I got a very similar measurement with both of these units, just within about 10 to 20 steps off. So pretty good results overall. It's quite simple, and other things that I can control using the app here is actually keep the phone's display always on whenever it's connected using Bluetooth. So that's a pretty cool smart lock feature. Otherwise, I can take a look at my watch, and I can also change the watch face directly from the app over here, and that will push the update over. Finally, I can also update the firmware from the app here. I can also change the widgets and apps that are being displayed, and now that particular page will be hidden from navigation when I'm using the watch. So that's our review of the Amazfit Pace 2, also known as the Stratos. Is it an improvement compared to the original Pace? I would say yes, in several ways. For one, it has a smarter design, it's classier looking, and because everything is just in this one color, especially with this ultra durable carbon fiber build, ceramic bezel, and curved Gorilla Glass, it feels a lot more premium and expensive from a design perspective. It seems like something that would fit business professionals alike, as well as sports enthusiasts. The addition of additional hardware keys and larger keys in general also make navigation a lot easier. On the previous version, one of my biggest complaints was the tiny crown key that was very hard to press with your fingers, and so if you wanted to wake up the screen or navigate between screens, it was a little bit difficult depending on what you're trying to do outdoors. It retains all the positive elements of the original Pace, however, which includes relatively good battery life that gets you a week before you need to recharge it, compared to only 2 days with the Apple Watch, and you have a very good GPS reception antenna on board, which gives you again useful tracking statistics when you are actually running and jogging outdoors. The improved waterproofing capabilities not only makes the watch more durable, but also useful for swimmers looking for that extra data. Finally, it retains this excellent e-paper display, which is extremely easy to see even under direct sunlight, as well as indoors thanks to the presence of a backlight. So as a whole, this is again definitely an improvement. Now, whether it's worth nearly double the price of the original Pace, or maybe 2 to 3 times the price of the bip, really is up to you. It definitely has a classier look, but at the same time, again, it is a little bit larger. I didn't feel that it was uncomfortable to wear, but for sure, as you saw in our comparison earlier, it has a slightly larger dimensions overall. Furthermore, most of the language settings are in Chinese at the moment, so hopefully we'll be seeing an update soon, but it's not there right now. So that's more or less it as far as a review of the Pace 2 is concerned. I would say that as more updates are pulled out for the product, it is going to be a worthwhile smartwatch, especially if you're an athlete, if you're into sports, and if you want a classy looking smartwatch that's elegant as well as functional, has good reception quality both for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS, and again, just feels as well as looks more expensive than the price really suggests. So you can check out more details about the Pace 2 or Stratos smartwatch in our official article out soon, but for now, this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the Amazfit Pace 2.